Welcome to the Mental Fitness Podcast. Today's entrepreneurs are mental athletes that have to know about the mind and how to keep it fit. Our goal is to increase our resilience against stress and anxiety, optimize our productivity, motivation, and optimism by learning about the human mind through psychology, neuroscience, and human behavior. I'm your host Ozan. I'm a founder who has experienced the challenges of launching and growing a business and a keen student of human behavior over the last 15 years. I'll share with you what I know and learn. Hundreds of impactful, behavior-changing ideas are waiting to be discovered by us. Let's begin now. Hello and welcome to the Mental Fitness Podcast for Entrepreneurs. I'm your host Ozan, and today's topic is it's actually a short guide on picking good co-founders, and I think this is a particularly important topic. Now, with this session, we're gonna mix things up a bit, and I'll refer to an excerpt from my latest book, Startups Grow with People: How to Pick Partners, How to Recruit the Top Talent, and How to Build a Company Culture. And there are 8 precise and I think useful nuggets of information that you can go out and directly use, kind of like a mental heuristic checklist of finding a good co-founder. And I'll share those 8 essential key truths with you in a moment. But before I do that, I think it makes sense to go back and share with you why I think my experience in this case is relevant. Before I even embarked on this journey of entrepreneurship, I worked in HR as a human business partner and as a executive recruiter who hired CEO, director level candidates as well as people for tech roles. And I have done a lot of interviews, more than thousands of interviews. And that actually gave me some insight into understanding the different personality dynamics, the skill sets, the qualities different people have. So, I think that's because people sometimes, they even themselves don't know what they're good at and what areas they need help with. But on top of that, I've actually built 4 startups. First one, I had a team of 3, 2 co-founders, and the second one, I had another co-founder, so it was a team of 2 at the very inception. The third and the fourth ones, I am the solo founder. So I've seen both sides of the table, and I can definitely say, having seen both sides, my conclusion is, if you can get a founder, get a founder. If you can get a good co-founder, definitely do that. Now, if you don't know the co-founder is good, but you want to go ahead anyway, now that's where you need to be careful. Because if you have a bad co-founder, it's actually better to be alone rather than having a bad co-founder. So that's like a quite tricky dynamic there. So ideally choose a co-founder. It makes a lot of difference. I wish I had a good co-founder with the business I'm building now. It just would increase our pace, the quality of our decisions, and so on. I'm 100% sure. Like the previous business, the second one I ever have a co-founder, I would not have been able to do that and bring that business to the success level it has today solo. No way. So it's been incredibly challenging at times, and we as the 2 co-founders of that business learned to navigate our way through that. But it definitely would not be possible. That business would not be here today if I was doing that solo. So without further ado, what are these 8 things that I think are particularly important in picking a good co-founder? So the first one is, as I said, I'm taking a look at my book, Startups Grow with People, and you can find it on Amazon if you just type in Startups Grow with People, and it's going to come up. So the first one is, a good partner have the life design that fits being in a startup. So first of all, how much time do they have? Do they have children? Are they still going to university? And the answer to these questions might be yes, it's okay. It's just that you have to consciously think with your potential co-founder, how much time do you have? What's your commitment to this business? And how will you spread that effort through the weeks and months? And is that really feasible for the business? So if you just spend 4 hours a week, can this business actually take off with your contribution? So be really conscious about that and make sure your partner's life design. So this is something even before starting to discuss what the business is. So essentially, do they have the space in terms of time, and more importantly, in terms of their productive energy, in terms of their mental assets, to be able to consciously and cognizantly focus on what they're building, and like they have the mind space and the time for that. And the second one, a good partner shares the problem. And I particularly say the problem, not the solution, because in the world of startups, a good motto that works is be in love with the problem that you're trying to solve, not the solution. Because if you do that, what happens is it actually gives you the freedom to pivot around what your solution is. But as long as you have your eyes set on a problem that you know and that you've researched, that is shared by a lot of people, that's a big problem, that's a deep problem, that's a problem worth solving, and that's a problem you particularly, as opposed to just anyone out there, is a good fit to solve that problem. So if you have checked all of these, then what is left is your co-founder needs to agree on that statement that that problem is indeed a big problem. So just to go with a very conventional example here to solidify, if you're building Uber, then your co-founder needs to identify, you need to agree on the fact that the current transportation system where you get a ride from point A to point B on demand is broken. So there's a problem there. Now, you have not agreed on the solution. You don't know what the solution exactly is. You don't really know what you're building. Maybe a vague idea, but you agree on the problem. Because if you disagree on the problem and agree on a solution, you think you agree on a solution, you're going to run into problems. And you won't have much flexibility. The third one is a good partner has depth of knowledge on at least one topic that is related to the startup. So like the idea here is you might be really good in terms of design, product management, creating a roadmap, managing people. So these are some of the skill areas that I personally have, but I'm not, although I'm interested, I don't have the expertise at a technical level to actually design the back-end infrastructure of an app that we are building, for example. So for that, I would need a technical co-founder to work with. So that's a complementary skill set, which is the ideal scenario what you want. A person, now this, it does not always have to be technical and non-technical. For example, if you're building a health tech startup, your co-founder might have really in-depth expertise on their PhD topic, for example. This is an area that you don't know about. You might have another PhD in a different topic, and lo and behold, maybe these two PhD topics are really integratable to each other in a conscious way that's going to create a new product. So what it does is, because you have expertise in at least one topic, then you automatically respect the other person more, because you know how difficult it is to build an expertise. You're more open to learning, you're more open to criticism, new ideas and discussion. So and also it's stronger for the business, so you make better decisions overall. Now the fourth one is a good partner values good execution over the ingenuity of ideas. So execution over ideas. This is quite simple, but just make sure that you and your potential co-founder agree on this. You're on the same page on this. You really understand the value of the execution, because let's face it, in this very competitive market, especially if you're building digital and tech products, it all comes down to your competitive advantage, right? So imagine you are the person, you have exact same idea in a petri dish, and you have three people with different characteristics, and one of them will keep the business going on for 12 months, the second one for 24 months, and the third one for 36 months. So exact same skills, only this variable, and other than that, the business idea is the same as well. Now, 95% of people will work for that business for 6 months. Perhaps 5% of people will work for that business for 12 months. Only 3% of people will work on it for 24 months. But only 1% of people will work on it for 36 months, and so on. So as you sustain the effort, as you keep working on that, you actually be each time you get upgraded to a better competitive bracket for you. So that's why execution, that's how execution functions. When it comes to thinking about good ideas, I promise you, because they don't take much time, they do take much time, but coming good ideas is not easy, but it is relatively a quick process if you have some insights, and if you're a creative person, and or if you do some research, if you can look at some industry insights and reports, and just copy what works, then yes, it will take you 2 days, for example, to come up with a list of 50 ideas. 45 of which would be shit, but 5 would probably be good, and 2 would probably be really great. So that is doable. And so there's not a big competitive advantage there. I can just go onto a freelance platform and ask people to generate ideas for me. The real competitive advantage comes from the execution. That's why startups succeed. So your founder needs to be on board with this. The 5th one, a good partner focuses on increasing the quality of decisions. And this is a particularly interesting one because at the end of the day, what is the difference between the success and failure of your business is how you make decisions. So it's a governance thing, really. But how can you actually increase your quality of decisions, right? So you have to have a good knowledge of the general geography of the startup universe, your industry, your market, your target audience. You have to have past work experience and self-awareness of your own skills and working habits. You have to have a good knowledge of your competitors. You have to be a good intellectual, understand culture, understand finance, and then all of these. And you have to really pack effectively. What I mean by is you can bootstrap, you can extend runway, you can minimize unnecessary overhead costs, and you have ability in terms of people to manage crucial conversations and have crisis skills as well. So if you have all these skills, and if you're also a good listener, then it means then you as a partner is a good sparring partner almost, to actually increase the quality of decisions, and that's a vital thing if you want to be a successful startup founder. The 6th one, since we've talked about listening, is a good partner listens to you, and this is a separate thing in its own right, but it's also a very key component of your governance structure, where you can make high quality decisions. If you do not listen well, and if you're focused on what you're going to tell next while your partner is speaking, then you deprive yourself of data, and because of that, you'll be less informed and your decisions will fail. So the ideal way is, so if your potential partner is a good listener, that is most likely because they respect what you have to say, they believe that they can learn something from you, they believe they can gain a unique insight or a new way of understanding through these disagreements. They're okay with saying I was wrong, and do not see this as admitting defeat, but a part of the natural learning process. They're open to being convinced through new information, and then they openly express this as well. And they have the self-confidence to declare topics that they're not knowledgeable about. So these are the things that usually come with a good listener, and they're absolutely vital if you want to make good decisions and if you want to avoid unnecessary arguments. Now, the 7th one. Actually, this 7th one is quite a pickle, because it's really difficult to understand this until you get into that partnership properly, get into the 5th or 6th month. But you can be really critical here and look at the past history, competence of that person who is your potential co-founder, and try to get some indicators almost of this, some early indicators. And this one is, a good partner is intrinsically motivated. Because if the partner is not self-motivated, has that drive, then you're gonna hit a wall, because at the end of the day, you're a small company, you don't have that authority over people in the way that power exists in very large organizations. You don't get paid that much, so people need to really believe in the value of the work they are doing, really believe in a very dedicated way about the future vision and the future success of the business. So, and this is something that, like this, my personal observation, this is not something you can engineer. This is not something you can actually come from the outside and create that within the person, him or herself. This I see more as a spark. I see more of this as almost a personality quality that is a result of how you see the world, like what problems you see, etc. Again, it comes down to, like Daniel Pink laid this out in a precise way: mastery, autonomy, and purpose. So if you have these, then it's good. But you have to have this work ethic, and like you have to, by yourself, have come to the conclusion that this is something worth your time, and that this is something that you really, really, really want. And if you have that intrinsic motivation, that's really good. If your co-founder does not have that, it's going to be a big problem. That may be the bearer of the bad news. So yeah, try to understand if that is the case or not by looking at some past examples from that person's previous work history, and try to ask why they quit, how they quit, what were the key projects that came to a very difficult impasse, and maybe ask them to covertly ask them to give you an example of what was a specific example of a time that they really persevered through a situation like this. Now the last one is a good partner is a lifelong learner, and I think this is the last but not the least, a very important one, and I think it's particularly important because Ray Dalio, I think, put this best. The legendary investor slash I don't know, philosopher, I would say, but I think he got this spot on. What he said was, and it stuck with me, your success as an entrepreneur comes down to a very basic fact: is how comfortable you are with what you don't know. So if you think you know a good amount of stuff about being an entrepreneur, about the markets, about how to build a successful business, if you know 5%, you have to actually humbly realize that there's a 95% there you have no freaking idea about. So that's the key thing. An entrepreneur lives with that fact, does not run away from that fact, does not color over that fact. He or she lives with the fact that they have absolutely no idea what they're doing sometimes. And a natural part of this is an intrinsic and almost embedded feeling of a learner's mindset, that is a growth mindset that is never ending. So every day you learn new things, you're always out of your comfort zone. If you know 5%, you don't know 95%, and you're okay with that. And if you have those, then you're a lifelong learner. It means you have adapted the way of the lifelong learning growth mindset. And if your co-founder and partner does not have that, then it's actually a very bad sign, because it means they are delusional to the extent that they either think that they know more than they do, which is a problem, or B, don't think there is much that is worth knowing. And then, like, it's very, if the person has that philosophy, it's very, very difficult to convince that person with new data, facts, and figures. And arguments usually end up as jostling matches rather than a collaborative, quality decision-making process, and these are usually to the detriment of the company. Yeah, that's the core 8 things that I think are particularly important when picking a co-founder. If you want more details, you can check out it in the book Startups Grow with People. I thought it was in line with what we do in this podcast, so I hope that was useful to you. And I'll talk to you in the next one. Hope this was useful. If you have any messages or would like to ask a question to me, my email address is ozzie@startupsoflondon.com. Take care, build great stuff, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.